Here I am having to rehash Gannon Buhr's greatness by yet another overdone season recap. That funny enough, half of you really don't want to hear. But we're really going to have to try and ignore the fact that any Buhr storyline hasn't been squeezed to death by every disc golf media for damn near the entire year already. So let me get to my controversial take to keep you from scrolling on to the next video, and while I'm at it, something just a little extra for you. Gannon Buhr had the single greatest disc golf season ever, despite failing to ever get his license, multitasking in general, wearing pants, not attempting to solve a Rubik's Cube in front of him, wearing gorilla costumes at inappropriate times, and of course, the ladies. Happy holidays all, I'm Swiss Cheese with the Disc Golf World, the YouTube channel for all your fast-hitting disc golf news. Discmas is winding down and so is our player profile. And if you haven't figured it out by now, Gannon Buhr is our final profile as he's one of the game's most polarizing players. Not sure if it's his age, previous contract battles, the accolades he continues to rack up, or the fact that he wins, like all of the time. And who am I kidding? We all know it's the fact that you can catch up on One Piece episodes before any of his turns. Now, before I jump into the best season ever, allow me first to thank those on the Patreon page for making this Discmas happen. I want to thank each and every one of you for your support. And for the ones who haven't already, why not support the channel by hitting the subscribe button, because the off season is about to take off after this New Year's, and you're really not going to want to miss a single bit of our coverage. After a contentious 2023 season that began with a very public battle and subsequent reconciliation with then-sponsor Prodigy, Gannon would enter the 2024 season carrying a new sponsor on his shoulders, a far fatter wallet, the pressure of living up to that contract, and looking to establish himself as the best in the world. 2 majors, one being his second US DGC win, 6 Elite Series victories, first in tour points, a dgpt championship winner, and the single season earnings record later, I would say he accomplished that feat. Most pros would take those accolades for a career, let alone a season. And that's not getting into the fact that his worst finish of the year was only a 13th place at OTB, or how he finished in the top 10 at 22 of 23 Elite Series events, and majors for that matter, and had 12 more podiums to go with those 8 wins also. With all those accomplishments, it's easy for many to say he dominated the field, but that would be a discredit for the incredible battles where he came out on top. For every dominating victory like the 8-stroke one at Portland Open, or the commanding win at Ledgestone, and that insane non-human 16 under at Green Mountain Championship, but that would be erasing close battles coming down to the final holes twice with Luke Humphreys. And who can forget the slugfest with Ricky at not only the European Open, but that epic comeback at the championship. The first plus event and large payday of the season was just the second stop of the year, and after day 3 11 under at the Beast, shot Gannon all the way up from chase card to a share of the lead with Luke Humphreys. The two would have a back and forth for the entire day. Gannon took an early lead with a 2-stroke swing on hole 1, but would lose that lead to not only Luke by hole 12, but also a blitzing Antela who went 8 under through a 9-hole stretch. The only thing that was clear was that this would be settled late as the action came down to the final holes. Antela's bogey on 17 and par on 18 opened the door for Luke, who just pimped walk his way into a circle 2 putt on 16 that gave him a single stroke lead over Gannon. Luke, acting first on 17 that just shattered Antela, planted his drive 17 feet from the pin. Gannon, on the other hand, fell short. 61 feet short, in fact, needing to hit that putt in order to keep pace. That putt may have been an expected make in all of your minds towards the end of the season, but was a far more clutch putt at this one, and had them heading to 18 where Gannon had the advantage on an 840-foot par 4. Luke chose wisely to press the action and avoid a playoff. That unfortunately went OB, and Gannon still birdied just to show that he could. And what was just his first victory of the year in the second event. It would be 7 events later till he would top the podium again, just going to show how good of a back half he would go on to have. But let's not get it twisted. Gannon was still there witnessing Antela's winning putt at the Open at Austin from lead card, taking 4th there, shot a 15 under final day at Texas State's to kind of push AB for a second at that stop, and then had the rails completely fall off for his worst finish of the year. Yeah, that 13th place I mentioned earlier. Only to respond with the most dominating win of the season in an absolute stacked field at the second Elite Plus event Portland Open. 3 days of highlight moment after highlight moment. Putts from the knee, unmatched angle control, and precision that had the route going into the final round with a 10-stroke lead. And with that lead, it was only a matter of by how much, which ended up being 8 strokes. only to have to battle Luke once again, along with nearly 6 others the very next week at the Beaver State Fling, which he ended up coming out on top yet again for back-to-back wins on the season. He would end up taking another podium, a third-place finish at his home tournament stop in Des Moines before heading overseas for his first European swing of his career. Would take another top 10 at the famous Croak Hole before heading to the second major of the season at the famed Beast and the newly implemented The Monster course in Tampere. Gannon, a student of the game, knew the history of this tournament, its layouts, the major status, and being the premier stop for his new sponsor Discmania. It was a good thing Gannon studied the history of this major, because he was certainly against some of its legends on this track, leading Paul by 3 strokes and 4 over Ricky Wysocki heading into the final. Gannon would start the round going 6 under through the first 7 holes, but just could not shake Rick as he primed himself for another final day chase down. That ended up being completed on 17 after Gannon 2-putted from within the circle, which also included a very costly OB rollaway. 2-putt and OB stroke would result in a 2-stroke swing, having the 2 tied heading into one of the most famous holes on tour. Rick's drive gave him a difficult lie, and Gannon would respond by putting his in prime position. Rick being forced to act first and having to be aggressive would end up going OB, and it was over from there as Gannon would get up and down clean, resulting in his second major win of his career, all before hitting the age of 20. He would smoke the field at Ledgestone for his third Elite Plus win on the season and surprised many that he wasn't in better position at Worlds. From what he would consider to be his worst performance on the season to the most dominating stretch we have seen from the young superstar, and it all began with him completing the Plus event sweep with a win at D-Glow, winning over $52,000 in those events alone. Dunked on his buddies in Canada at the Rip, where he only averaged 1086 over the 3 days. From there, took down the first playoff event on the Green Mountain Championship in large part due to a mind-bending performance on day 2 that would have him finish at 16 under and over a 1100 rated round on Fox Run, which wildly enough should have been better with 2 C1X missed putts in that round also. In what would be his worst finish in this stretch was a podium at the second playoff event where he would take 3rd place at MVP Open. From there, headed to Winthrop Arena in Rock Hill trying to make history, where the 2 premier young superstars who took the disc golf world by storm this season put on a show at USDGC. Sure, they had a better back and forth the 3 days prior to the final, but the hype going into that last day was still there. But like the rest of the year, Gannon cruised to another victory, and what was his second USDGC win already in his short career. Something that's only been accomplished by the Hall of Famers of our game. There's Gannon's wiry stature standing alongside Ken Kleimel, Paul Macbeth, Barry Schultz, and his mentor, Will Schustrick. That was sick and all, but it still wasn't the best disc golf he played on the year. That would be a week later at the championship, where the entire season and that $200,000 earnings goal were all on the line. After only a 4-under round on day 1, Gannon would finish with his advantage and lead erased by Ricky. Would respond with another scrap between Ricky and what would be the performance of the year on day 2, and had it all accumulating with an epic finish on top. Day 2 would have them combine for 25 under, as Rick looked like his normal Charlotte Championship self, where he had won back-to-back championship events just the year prior. Didn't hurt, his putter was on also, hitting 4 C2 putts on the front 9 alone, one from as far as 60 feet, and would finish with an incredible 12 under day, but not incredible enough to not lose a stroke to Gannon, as he closed out the back half 7 under. Wysocki lost a stroke despite the 2 throwing the 2 highest rated rounds on the same card. I'm not too sure if that one stat is accurate, but it feels right. And we're too late in this Discmas run to go research it. Rick's hot play would continue, as he put together a double-digit under the very next day, while Gannon could not keep pace and only put together a 5 under, resulting in him being down 6 strokes heading into the final. Gannon would close that lead on just the front 9 alone, as fans were witness to some insane play, even better highlight putts, and plenty of chirpy play, as the 2 along with their caddies were passionate, celebratory, and most importantly, vocal. Sprinkle in a time violation call that only heightened the emotions and had both wanting to beat the other over the payday and prestige. The back half only had 2 separate 2-stroke swings in each player's favor, as the fans really didn't want the action to stop, though the holes remaining were running low. And once Gannon secured the lead after a birdie on 15, would hold on to it for yet another big cash payout and record-earning streak. And listen, I know the prize money has gone up year after year, but that number might not be touched for some time, if ever. as the fields are only improving, and though Gannon was able to separate this year, still needed to win every Elite Plus event, a playoff, and 2 majors to even think about attaining those numbers. Going to show how great this season truly was. And even if you believe Gannon will take a step back next year, which, if we're being honest, almost seems to be a guaranteed, because it really is the only direction to go after this season, still doesn't change the fact that his sights are set on becoming the greatest disc golfer to ever play this sport, and he's certainly well on his way to that. Well guys, that wraps up another Discmas vid and the daily run of videos. Thank goodness, because we need a break. That is until this Friday's twig. If you've enjoyed and not subscribed, make sure to do so. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, comment, and share. And by the way, happy holidays to everyone.